So, do I address you as? I'm not. What am I supposed to call you, ladies? You're fresh, so you would be lieutenant.
No, I'm not an officer.
No,
so
yeah, that's right.
I came in with a skill, so I got to be a specialist.
Same.
Okay.
Yep. So, as far as Army goes, like Army lingo and stuff, it would be specialist for both of us. Like I would be specialist Weiss. So you end up just going by your last name.
We've got Specialist Weiss, Specialist Simonton here. We're with the U.S. Army. Specifically, we are at AMU, the Army Marksmanship Unit, where it's an elite group of people that are doing a lot of things. We're going to talk about that, but we're going to hear these young ladies' stories, and we're going to hear the story of Dale's day here yesterday. These girls were a part of. They taught me how to handle firearms yesterday. What do you guys think of my helmet?
I've been loving it. I saw you roll out of the van in it, and I was like, okay, yeah, let's go.
Some of the older gentlemen did not know what to think of this goober that stepped out of a van wearing a 1970s Army helmet. And I was like, I swear, I'm not being disrespectful.
Kind of looks like the one over
I'm
here
a
in
fan.
that cabinet.
Well, you're pointing at what General George S. Patton
Yeah, you don't have
was
the
wearing
4 stars on there.
Yeah, I don't
but,
have the
You're a little lower
stars.
than that.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, like I had a belt buckle on yesterday and some aviators.
Right, which
so
I didn't feel was
Okay,
disrespectful.
great.
Yeah,
So
I loved
we're
it.
on the same page.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining this episode of Rodeo Time, the podcast. We're going to hear these young ladies' stories. Now on to the podcast. Oh, wait, turn that back down. Before we go on to the podcast, check out the links in the description below to find out more information about how you can join the United States Army. Now, go ahead and play the music. Before we jump into the podcast, just know that there are ways in which you could potentially earn an extra 50 grand by joining certain Army MOSs, which is a job. So be sure and click the links below in the description to find out more information on one of 150 jobs you could potentially have in the Army. So click those links and find out different ways to get involved. Like one of the ladies we talked to today, ask the right questions and you'll get the right answers. So find out more below.
Heard
Sounds
y'all
like
got rained
we're in
on yesterday.
Haunted house.
Too bad.
We did get rained on, yes, but I'm pretty tough.
You're not made of sugar, so you're not going to
I'm
melt.
not made of sugar.
Not melting out there.
And right, so I killed it pretty good. So
Nice.
What'd they have you do over at Action?
which one was action?
The one after lunch.
Mike taught me how to shoot a pistol because apparently I don't know how to do that either.
Oh, did you think you did before?
No,
Oh, okay.
See, I had shot trap in like junior high for a couple years, but I was not going to share that because I knew that, I'm not that good. So
You don't
getting
wanna be
razzed by
embarrassed
you
beforehand, yeah.
was pretty normal because my older sister was always better than me. So that
Girls
was pretty
tend to be.
Yep. She's pretty good with a shotgun. So yeah, each stage I was pretty much prepared to not know what I was doing.
Right. Yeah. Good.
The ballistics though, it was like pretty much already, the gun was already on a little stand. All I had to do was reach around and pull the trigger. That one was easy. I got that one.
Yeah, you like that one a lot?
So, but shooting the 1 mile shot while it was raining, that was pretty difficult.
Yeah.
I can imagine.
Target?
Yeah.
Well, no, because it wasn't really dialed in yet for me, just because they couldn't see where the bullet was going.
'Cause
So
of
I
the
was
rain?
really just
Yeah, 'cause of the
guessing.
rain.
And then once the rain quit, they were like, "Oh yeah, you're 10 feet off." And then they dialed it in. It took me 3 shots once the rain quit. I got it on the 3rd shot.
Nice.
I don't feel like that's too bad. I was a little jealous, not gonna lie.
Have y'all got to do stuff like that?
Heck no, we're not special.
You're not special.
We're special, but not that
You're
special.
you're special. You're just special in a different.
Right.
Different way.
Discipline.
So Army Marksmanship Unit. You guys are definitely special. So the elite, you've got a bunch of Olympians. And you've been to the Olympics.
Correct. Yes.
So that's pretty special.
Very special. Absolutely. Yes. So we are special for sure. It's just less of the well-known things like a mile shot. Everybody knows a mile shot. They're like, that's the coolest thing to try a mile shot. Yeah, that's not what we're good at. We
Gotcha.
could be. We've never tried it, but
What are all the different events that AMU has participated in the Olympics?
so in the Olympics has been on the rifle side of things. I'll let you talk about shotgun, but on the rifle side of things, a lot of different events over the course of the history of the Olympics. We now currently shoot 10-meter air rifle, 50-meter 3-position, which is a 22 rifle, and now they've also just recently added some mixed team events. So a long time ago, it used to be co-ed, and then the girls were beating the boys, and the boys weren't happy, so they split them up. That's the rumor, at least. And so
In which event was this?
all of the Olympic events for rifle.
Oh,
We
wow.
used to all be combined, but then when the women started winning, they split it up into two different things. So we're shooting the
have that.
exact same event. No, absolutely
Okay.
not.
Yeah.
So the exact same thing, exact same number of shots, etc. Same time limits, but women are only competing against the women and the men are only competing against the men. But in the last Olympics, we had mixed team air rifle for the first time. So if you and I were both going for Team USA and you were shooting the men's individual event and I was shooting the women's individual event, we would come together in the mixed team and shoot as partners. And they would combine our scores and then compare that to other countries across the world. And then same idea, try to win a medal there. And they just added it for Paris in 24 for the small bore 22 rifle 3-position event as well.
Wow.
But we've kind of cut some throughout the years. We used to have prone events. That's what we have. We had some Olympians here, the Army Marksmanship Unit, that shot of the Olympics in prone, where it was 60 shots prone. So all of the laying down, which I'm sure you were probably doing for your 1 mile shot. Yes.
Yeah. When I actually hit it, I was riding on a motorcycle.
Oh, yeah.
Riding on the back of a motorcycle.
Some grenades
Right, so
going off in
moving.
the background because you're in the Army, right?
And then the target was also on a motorcycle going the other way.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Yes, so you had to do a little bit of, I think,
The
leading.
ski practice
that you
helped,
learned,
The
right?
skeet practice helped.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
What are the different shotgun?
So right now at the Olympics, we also have mixed team. But right now it's just trap and skeet. So you shot skeet yesterday. And trap, the target's going away from you. And it's out of a bunker. There's 15 machines.
I'm just going to move it over that way.
Okay.
I can see your face.
Okay. I'm a skeet shooter. And for the last Olympics, well, I was a spare tire. I was the alternate, so I wasn't as special as Allie. But I was the first alternate for women's skeet. But now skeet has the mixed team event. Last Olympics, it was trap, and so it got moved to skeet this year, or for this quad. And then used to, prior to the 2020 games, there was double trap. And the office, or the AMU shotgun section, had a lot of double trap shooters. And Sergeant Glenn Eller, he won a gold medal at the Olympics in 2008 in double trap. So
Yeah.
Dang.
surrounded by greatness here,
Yeah,
for sure.
So Eisenhower created the Army Marksmanship Unit in 56.
Correct.
And it is now, what are all of its purposes? I know it's, to showcase the Army's capabilities, but then there's also some training capabilities that AMU has as far as like training other people in the Army and other services.
Correct. So we have multiple different sections, and obviously, as you saw, as you were walking through, that they each kind of have their own specialty, right? Like they're each good at something different, but it's all still marksmanship. So our job is to compete and train every day. It is our full-time job. We get to train and shoot in our discipline, in our event every day. And we take all of those things that we're learning as we're, showcasing the Army and winning medals and representing, both Team USA at, Olympics and World Championships, as well as the U.S. Army. And then all of the things we're learning as we're honing and perfecting our skills, we are able to take over to the rest of the Army to teach them marksmanship skills and fundamentals.
Yeah, I think in the mission statement it says, like, you know, connecting America's people with America's Army. And we're kind of that bridge piece to kind of, as she was saying, showcase what we do and a little bit of the Army and instruct and teach. And there's a really big civilian marksmanship program that's for more rifle pistol stuff. But yeah, just kind of the bridge between the two.
So tell me about your story. We'll start with you, Sam. What is it that drew you to the Army, and did you always see? Well, we'll start there.
Well, when I was a little kid, I grew up going to Ranger Day, which is at Camp Merrill, where they do the mountain phase of Ranger School. I thought that was super, super cool. I wanted to be a Ranger when I was a little kid, and, you know, academics were very important to me, so I pursued school. And through a friend of a friend, met some people who were shooting, said, hey, you got to try it. Got decently good at it, and made the U.S. team, and got offered a position to be at the Olympic Training Center full-time as a resident athlete. And I was there, went to the University of Colorado at Colorado Springs. It was great for a while, but some things changed, and I just kind of felt like I was stuck in a rut after not making the Olympic Games in 2020. And I was looking for support, and the Army offered me a spot where I was going to be completely supported. And, you know, I could finish my degree. I actually attend school at Auburn University. It's about 40 minutes from here, and it's kind of a drive, but it's worth it to me. And the Army offered me a lot of opportunities, both in my shooting career and my academic career, as well as my future. So it just kind of seemed like a foolproof option for me.
So what are you going to school for?
Biomedical science.
Dang.
I want to go to medical school. I really want to be a doctor.
Intense, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So how many years in are you?
Too many.
Too many?
Too many. I took some time off from classes to train to make this last Olympic team. I was 2 points away. Kind of hurt your feelings a lot.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, I would have graduated this past May, but I was doing a bunch of push-ups and basic training instead. So
I got you. So you're new to the Army relatively.
Yes, I am. So I shipped to basic training January 24th this year and graduated from my job training as a combat medic June 17th. So I've been here 2 months and a few days. So
Dang, wow. Super
She's our baby for
fresh.
sure. Yeah.
Yes. So as far as Olympics for the AMU, you're looking at, what is the next one?
2024 in Paris,
24.
France.
Paris, France.
Yeah, good one.
So you came to, tell me a little bit about your journey as far as like how the Army's helping you with school and whatnot, because it sounded pretty interesting at lunch yesterday.
So before I even considered joining the Army Marksmanship Unit, I knew I wanted to go to medical school, and I had been doing some research about how to pay for medical school because my parents aren't paying for it, and, you know, working occasionally doesn't pay for it. And medical school isn't getting any cheaper, and I'm not super interested in taking out huge loans. And the Army, as well as the Air Force and the Navy, offer this thing called HPSP, which is Health Professions Scholarship Program. So once you're accepted to a graduate school in the health professions, you can drop a packet, and they will pay for your school for time back to them. You have to be a military doctor in whatever your trained specialty is. And so I found that super interesting, and I knew I had always wanted to be in the Army. So it kind of seemed like a great option. And then I was talking to Lieutenant Amber English last summer, and she was like, you should join the unit. You should join the Army Marksmanship Unit. And I was like, no. And then just kind of reading the writing on the wall of the situation I was in, I couldn't say no. It seemed like every perfect opportunity. And I was like, I want to finish my degree. Like, this bothers me. I really want to finish my degree because that's something I take pride in, is school. And then I found out the Auburn's campus, even though I'm a big Georgia Bulldogs fan, that's kind of sacrilegious where I'm from to even consider going to Auburn. But academics, you got to put it aside. Football that's one big game every year.
Different story for sure.
Yeah. So, I figured out I could take classes at Auburn, finish my degree, and being active duty, the Army offers something called TA, which is tuition assistance. So you're offered $250 per credit hour to pay for your tuition. I'm working on getting in-state tuition right now from Auburn, even though I'm stationed here at Fort Benning, but I do live in Alabama now. So, yeah, so a lot of opportunities. And even through all of that, I'm still not touching my GI Bill. So if I want to save my GI Bill and get another degree later, or if I have kids later on down the road, I can offer that money to them to go to school and stuff. So there's really a lot of opportunities. All you have to do is just ask the right questions and don't take no for an answer.
Yeah, that's crazy. Just, doing a little bit of investigating. What'd you say, health specialist program?
Health Professions Scholarship Program. So most people are like HPSB, and
gotcha.
it's kind of like this super secret kind of thing, because not many people know about it.
Right.
Because I've asked so many people, like, do you know anything about this? Do you know anything about this? And we had a rep at school come talk about it. And then
it sounds like one of those things where, you go in and they're like, here, check out these forms. You're going to want to look at them. And then it's like, you get them in a goodie bag and you're like, I'm not going to read those, whatever. It's just like, there's like these nuggets of information that they offer along the way that you just choose not to use. And then later on you're like, oh yeah, we tried to tell you about that. You could have, we could have paid for your school.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think some people, get disheartened with the Army because they kind of disregard those offers. Like I remember my in-processing brief here, one of the many. It took like 2 weeks, but there's a lot on Fort Benning. I mean, Fort Benning has a lot to offer. I found out today that there's a humane society at Fort Benning.
On Fort Benning, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know that. There's a little agility park I took my dog to.
Yeah.
Side note, they're also doing like dog basic obedience training next Friday. If you want to go, we can take our dogs.
I'm totally down.
See, it's a lot like, I feel like it's very similar to one of the interns recently said about my intern program at Radiator Ranch, Rodeo time, that you get out of it what you put into it, which is hypothetically true for almost anything you do in life. But it sounds like something like the Army. You get here and you think you're just going to go to basic training and be a soldier and that's it, and learn how to shoot an M4 and then, get out in 4 years. And
well, they always teach you you're a soldier first.
Right, which is the case once you get out of basic training. However, it sounds like there's a lot more to it if you really they're not going to probably hold your hand.
Oh, absolutely.
As they wouldn't anywhere. I'm not going to a Radiator Ranch. I tell these guys, like, if you guys want to learn how to ride bulls or broncs, like, you're going to have to get up early. You're going to have to stay late. You're going to have to put in the fundamentals. I'll provide you the arena and the bulls, but you're going to have to actually do it. And so some people come in and they kind of learn, and then, they'll put in 40, 50, 60, 80% effort, and which is fine if you reap what you sow, but you can't put in 65% effort and expect 100% results.
Absolutely not. Yeah. Same thing for us all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. You get what you put out of it, or you get what you put into it every time.
Right.
So.
Absolutely.
You bet. So what's your story?
Oh man, my story. So, actually it's just so wild and interesting because almost complete opposite of Sam. I had zero experience or even seeing any people in the Army. Never really saw people in uniform. Knew somebody that their dad was in the National Guard, and that's about the most experience I ever had with it. Still never really saw it. Way different compared to being in here, and it's just all, military people because I'm on a military installation. But so I had no desire ever to join the Army. Always had huge respect for our armed services and the people that sacrificed and all the things that they did for us in our country, but just had no desire myself. It was just, I didn't think I fit the mold that I thought the Army had. It was just this stereotype, I guess, in my head,
there were some people in basic training that did not fit the mold either.
Right. Yeah.
They made it through.
So I was just doing my own thing in life, following my education path, following shooting. I started shooting through actually a gun safety and education program because we lived in Montana, and I think I told you a little bit about this yesterday, but just for everyone else. And so my parents, not gun owners, not anything like that, not big avid hunters. I've actually only been hunting twice in my life. Never shot a deer because we didn't see one when we went, and then shot a wood duck here on post once, and that's about it. And so they just wanted me to learn how to be safe around them, because if I was to ever go anywhere, they would rather have safety and education rather than an accident. And so we showed up at it. It was education. We did learn a lot of gun safety. We also learned how to shoot with Daisy 499 Spring Air BB guns. Just a little pump BB gun, drop the BB down the front of the barrel and shoot at a paper target. And that's sort of where I fell in love. I loved the community. I loved the sport and the challenge of always trying to be better and get more and more center and more accurate. And I had a mentor at the time tell me that I could go really long ways if I wanted to, that I had, some talent, but I'm going to have to put in the work for that talent if I want to go anywhere. And so I took that and ran with it for basically the rest of my life now. The Army Marksmanship Unit, when I was in college, kept asking if I wanted to join after college or if I wanted, to join and be a part of their team. They would love to have me. And nope, until I was blue in the face. I don't want to be here.
I was like, nah, that ain't for me.
Yeah, Army's not my style. And then fortunately, as I got older and made the national team, I started talking to more people on the Army Marksmanship Unit's team for international rifle and started learning more about the Army because I knew nothing about it. I was just creating this thing in my head that I thought it was, which was infantry and, G.I. Joes, G.I. Janes, and I didn't want to be that. And then I learned all of the opportunities that there were with schooling, the tuition assistance, the GI Bill, just all of the other benefits, the support, the family that you create, all of the cool things you get to do. And I was like, okay, this might not be too bad. I do want to keep shooting after college. I tried the Olympic Training Center as well for about a year. Felt a little bit similar to Sam, that it was as we were trying to make the 2020 team, that I just wasn't getting the full support and resources that I wanted to be able to succeed. And from there, I took a graduate assistant position at the University of Memphis with their rifle team, hoping to get a little bit more support. And that's where I was when I made the Olympic team, just being surrounded by people that supported me and all of that. But I still didn't have the financial resources, setting myself up for success for the rest of my life. I was just barely making it by going to graduate school and shooting my gun and competing every day and then coaching the kids too. So I knew I needed that if I ever wanted to do anything else with my life outside of just getting an education. And then I started thinking about it more and was like, well, if I want to keep shooting and I want to make a life out of it, I got to make some kind of change. And I learned about all of this. So I asked them if they would still take me. And fortunately for me, they said absolutely. And I joined, and all of my stereotypes I had of the Army and all of that pretty much died in basic training. I mean, even
not
as
the
I'm getting
push-ups part.
Yeah, true. Yeah, we did a lot of push-ups.
Those are still fresh on my mind.
Yeah, very fresh for you. I did learn though, while I was there. I mean, yes, I'm getting yelled at. I'm getting yelled at for the silliest stuff, right? But you're learning so much out of it. And I'm a crazy person. I loved basic training.
I did too. I thought it was kind of almost a mental escape because it's like, okay, you're told what to do. You don't have to think. All you have to do is do what you're told.
Yes.
And some people have a very hard time accepting that. I think when you're in that environment, you just kind of have this mentality of like, okay, this is what I got to do. Yeah. I'm going to have to.
100%.
Yeah, and it's again what you make of it. And so for me, since I'd already made the Olympic team, I knew that I would be going to the Olympics. So I was like, well, this is a huge opportunity for me to work on my mental aspect of training. Oh, yeah. I might not be able to be physically training on my gun. Physically training my body, yes, but not on the gun, on the rifle. So I was like, well, now I can sit here and train my brain, rather than dreading every time we're doing push-ups and hating everything. It's changing that mindset to how far can I go? I don't know when they're going to stop, so I'm just going to push myself to see how many I can do until I'm actually failing, rather than kind of giving up before you hit that wall just because you think you can't do it.
Right.
Yeah.
No, that's a really good point. There's times of the year whenever I'll go day work at a ranch and with some friends of mine, and I feel like it's definitely a day off. I physically work harder during those few weeks a year that I'll go to. We call it neighboring. We'll go help someone else, and then they'll help you. But anyhow, whenever I go do that, physically I work harder than I might if I'm in the warehouse, at back in Winnebago with the apparel line, or we're filming or working on my own ranch. Anyhow, physically I'll work harder, but I don't have to stress about being in charge. I don't have to stress about managing people or inventory or my own cows. I just do what the boss says. And that sometimes is a very liberating thing. When you're okay with taking orders, if you'll just, but I imagine there comes a point, like you said, where it's, all right, it's time to train your brain. And I need to be a thinker, not just a doer and a follower, but I'm sure that, there's time for that after basic training.
Right.
So whenever you get out, there's I hear there's like hundreds of jobs you can have.
Oh,
that
yeah.
are in the Army. Yep. You girls are in AMU. What are some of the other like interesting jobs that you've seen or heard of that aren't just carrying M4 and bust down a door?
Right, yeah, they're outside infantry. So her and I actually have very different jobs, and they end up being, so we get trained in something other than the marksmanship stuff. So we get trained in a typical military occupation specialty. MOS is what you'll frequently hear to it referred as. And that is our job that we're trained for the Army, but then the Army Marksmanship Unit picks us up, and we don't actually work that job because our new job is to be a shooter instructor for the Army.
I'm really trying to do some 68 whiskey stuff.
Right. So 68 whiskey is what she is, which is a combat medic.
Yeah, they call it a healthcare specialist now, but combat medic.
I did not know they changed that. Where I'm a 42 Alpha, which is a human resource specialist. So two very different things. I mean, honestly, you would see mine more as like a paper pusher, like a person, in hospitals or things like that are working on human resource work, or in any company, human resource things, where she is helping somebody, like putting a tourniquet on somebody with a wound on their leg or something. It's very different pieces. And then there's things like I looked at being a chaplain assistant when I was coming in, which is where you're working with a chaplain and basically following them around, listening to what they need you to do. I looked at being an ammunition specialist. They have nutrition care specialists for enlisted, and then dietitians for officers. So it's like almost anything you can think of in the civilian world, we have an opportunity to do here.
Yeah, you could be a 92 golf. You could be a combat cook.
Yeah. You could join the Army and learn how to cook and be a chef. Like, that's wild.
So then you would come out of the Army with that. For instance, you would come out with HR capabilities and be able to apply that anywhere.
Exactly.
Yeah, the Army's gotten super big on like wanting to have applicable skills to the civilian world, because I think they know a lot of people don't stay in a full 20, so they're not getting that retirement. But I think the Army really wants to focus on like giving people who are in a skill that's applicable to the civilian world. So for instance, me, I'm a 68 whiskey combat medic, and we're required to get our NREMT certification. So I could go work in a hospital as a civilian, but there's a whole bunch of other jobs too. Like I remember going to basic training. I guess my initial thought was everybody's going to be 68 whiskey, and that wasn't true. So there were several of my good friends from basic trainings, 35 Mikes, which are human intelligence, 35 Papa, which is cryptologic linguists. So they're all at Monterey and learning a new language. Super cool. 88 Mike, truck driver. There's a whole bunch of 13 Banger. That's a field artillery, 13 Bravo. Okay. 13 Fox. That's a Ford Observer, I believe. There's a lot of really cool jobs in the Army.
What would I be?
What would you? Outside of bull riding.
Yeah.
Because I don't think we have that. I don't think we have a bull riding team yet in the Army, but maybe we can.
Yeah, you never know.
Yeah.
World-class
90
program.
bull. Yeah, 90 bull.
90 bull, yeah.
90 points for, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think 68 whiskey has a pretty cool ring to it.
So I've always thought that it would be really good to have some sort of like medic type background, just because that way, not because I wanted to go into medicine by any means, but just to be prepared. Like if I were to come upon an accident.
Oh, absolutely.
Drive up on one or be a part of one, like where I could help someone. Mm-hmm. Thankfully I've never had to do that, but I mean, being prepared would be the ultimate for me.
Absolutely. And I mean, I'm fresh out of training, so I'm like super excited to talk about it. And I miss my 68 whiskey stuff every day. I loved it. And the training the Army invests in us is like pretty much second to none. I mean, yeah, you're frustrated because it's like a mass group of people trying to get through the same thing, but I mean, they have multi-million-dollar mannequins for us to work on, and they're actually bleeding. I remember we had to go in for our prolonged casualty care day, that we had to stop the bleed. We had to treat this guy. We had to put a chest tube in. I'm probably speaking medical knowledge that y'all don't understand, but we had this mannequin that was pretty much dying. Like he was supposed to be a combat casualty, and we were supposed to keep him alive for 5 hours in the dark. So we all had to put our red lens on, and I just got the wealth of knowledge I gained was awesome. And I guess a lot of times people think, oh, you're a combat medic or a healthcare specialist, like you're going to get placed in a hospital or whatever. And, you know, I have friends who are at Fort Drum, they're with line units. I have people with cav units. I have people that I went to training with that are at hospitals. Actually, my orders were messed up when I came here at first.
They're already in a hospital? Like working in one?
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
So as soon as you graduate from AIT, which is Advanced Individual Training, so your job school, if you're active duty, you get your orders to the day you graduate and say, hey, this is the unit you're going to. This is your flight. You're on your way.
Yeah.
So, one of my friends, he's at Fort Drum. He's with the infantry unit up there. And I was initially assigned to the labor and delivery clinic here at Fort Benning. So yeah, I would have been in a hospital, but yeah, super cool. The opportunities the Army has, like, it's not anything that I expected. Cause I mean, as Ali said earlier, like, you think Army and you're like, 240s carrying a lot of heavy stuff, which I learned to carry a whole lot of heavy stuff. I thought that was my only job for a long time, was just carrying my aid bag and all my other stuff. But
so, AMU, there's, you know, it's kind of the elite. There's only a certain number in AMU. So how do they decide who gets to come in? How do they decide who gets to stay once you're in?
Performance.
Right. A lot of it is performance. So I think a lot of us.
Because I'm just imagining you, if you were to leave for whatever reason, whether you choose it or that your time runs out or you get asked to leave, you would have to go back to that job.
Right.
So
correct.
anyhow.
So if we want to stay in the Army, yes, we would have to go work as a 68 Whiskey or a 42 Alpha. Either be go out and be assigned to a different unit and all of that.
Performance, though.
Yes. So getting in performance outside of, you know, in our sports, especially for the Olympic events and Olympic teams, which is what we both are. I think it's a little bit different with the other action teams, the instructor training group. They get recruited in a little bit differently. But for us, performance outside of joining the Army, we need to be good enough to be a part of the most elite team in the Army and in the country. So then they bring us in, and then from there, performance, and then your typical Army standards with PT tests and all of that. You need to be an asset to the team. Otherwise, there is no point in having you, because we are the best of the best, and that's where we want to stay.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm new here, but I still try to operate under the MO that, like, hey, with much that is given, much is expected. Like, we're given some of the best resources in the entire country or even the world to, you know, get to perform and live out our dream to qualify for the next Olympics and medal. And, you know, the Army gives us that, so we got to pay it back.
Yeah, that Christian, and then what was the other gentleman's name?
Sergeant Hinton.
Sergeant Hinton.
Mm-hmm. Will.
Lost 100 pounds.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They called him Big Willie before.
Wow.
Yeah, that's some
wild.
drive. That's some
that
drive
was to
and dedication.
get into AMU.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Meet the standards.
That's wild.
I mean, it's special being here. Like, I mean, from where I was before in Colorado, like, I loved Colorado. I never wanted to leave, but the situation I was in just wasn't. I was doing everything I could to get an opportunity to train, and I was so frustrated and I was exhausting myself, and I was so gung-ho about it that sorry, not to toot my own horn, but this is another opportunity that the Army has that I feel like a lot of people don't know about, but I was so motivated, and I knew that I had a competition in January and I had a competition in August, and I needed to complete all of my training within that time. So pretty much 6.5 months, because 6 months-ish, and I wanted to train before that competition in August, because both January and August are combining to determine who goes to the World Championships in Croatia. And I was like, I really want to do a medical MOS because I really want to go to medical school. I can't be an officer because the timing would just take too long. And I was like, 68 Whiskey. Lieutenant Amber English was like, 68 Whiskey. But I didn't have my EMT, she was like, 68 Whiskey. And I was like, what's that? Combat medic? And I was like, yeah, that sounds great. But then I was like, that training's 26 weeks. There's no way I would get out of training the day our competition in August started.
Dang.
And I was like, well, crap, I can't do that. And I was like, I don't want to do anything else. Like, I was so drawn to being a 68 Whiskey. And, you know, I talked to her and she was like, I told you should have gotten your EMT. And then I started talking to people, and there's this thing called ACASP, which is Army Civilian Acquired Skills Program, and it's actually offered for multiple MOSs throughout the Army. And so I was able to obtain my NREMT certification on the civilian side, so that shortened my 68 Whiskey training by over half.
Oh, wow.
So I was able to complete all of my training in 19 weeks. So I started January 24th and graduated from AIT June 17th. So I still had a month to train for this competition. I was actually able to make this World Championships team to Croatia. It worked perfectly.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It was working really hard, and the Army was super helpful. I mean, our previous Colonel Andreessen, called Colonel Menendez at 232 Med Battalion, and had me move to Alpha Company. Ended up being a great asset to the training company. So
that's what you mean by asking the right questions.
Right.
Absolutely. Well, and working hard. I mean, Sergeant Hinton was super motivated, and the Army will give you things if you work for it. And, you know, he's been offered a great opportunity. He qualified for this World Championships team. I think he actually won nationals a few weeks ago. So it's just like we were talking about earlier, like you get out what you put in, and he put in a lot of work to be here, and it's certainly paying off for him. And I hope and think it's working out pretty well for me right now.
Yeah. You're just starting to.
Who is someone like Sergeant Hinton that you've met while in the Army that's just been a huge inspiration as far as maybe like what you said, getting out of it, what you put into it? It sounds like you've mentioned Lieutenant Amber English a couple of times.
Yeah, I actually met Allie last week because Amber brought us together. You know, Amber, she lived and trained in Colorado as well, so she kind of had that similar experience that I had, and she qualified for this last Olympic team, and she and I have a very similar training mindset, so I think I probably look up to her the most. And every bit of it, you know, some people give you advice and they embellish it and stuff, and every piece of advice she ever gave me, down to freaking tying my boots in basic training. I made so many friends teaching them how to tie their boots faster in basic training because she showed me before I went. And she taught me how to put my hair in a bun. I still struggled the first few weeks of basic. My bun was on the side of my head. But yeah, I would probably say Lieutenant Amber English, or just some of my like battle buddies from training. I know that's kind of a cliche thing to say, but I mean, it's true. Like, I knew going into training that I had like a motivating factor. I knew I had a light at the end of the tunnel, and, you know, drill sergeants would be like, Simonton, why are you smiling all the time? You're not in the Army. You shouldn't be happy. And I was like, I'm one step closer to my dream, drill sergeant. Or they'd call me Simonton instead of Simonton. And they're like, Simonton, put those teeth away. Stop smiling. It's just
Put those teeth away.
finding some source of motivation every day. And like one of my best friends in basic training, Salima Williams, she kind of didn't have the best opportunities in life. And I became super good friends with her, and, you know, seeing her motivation through all that, like, you know, she's like 5 foot. Like, rucking was hard for her.
Yeah.
You know, she worked her butt off to get there. And I remember we were doing the horizontal ladder. It's like the monkey bars. It was hard for her. And, you know, she worked through it. Or there were people seeing their motivation to get there. I knew I always had a light at the end of the tunnel. I knew I was coming here. But seeing everybody else, and, you know, they're like, this is the best opportunity I've ever had in life. And I think it's inspiring to hear other people's stories, because the Army can bring in people from every walk of life. Like, yeah, I'm a surgeon's daughter, but I still joined the Army, and I was with people who didn't have a place to live, you know, like, and it brings us all together. And I mean, that's why we call each other battle buddies. We go through it together and we learn about it. It's pretty cool.
What about you?
Oh, man. Okay, so I'm not very good at this question. Team USA likes to ask it sometimes, too, and be like, oh, like, who do you look up to? Like, who's your idol? And I'm like,
Be Matthew McConaughey and say myself in 10 years.
I mean, no, I'm just kidding. So it is, I don't know if I have any specific people. There's, especially, you know, I didn't know a lot of people in the Army outside of the people in the Army marksmanship unit. So there's for sure, I mean, Lieutenant Amber English, completely different discipline than I shoot, but her drive and motivation to, you know, get what she wants out of life, get things done, all of that. So I really liked that. And then I think I almost more go on the other side of things, as far as, this is going to sound like I'm trying to say myself, and that's so embarrassing, but
Nah, man, you worked hard to be here.
So, but it's the idea of being a role model for someone else.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Being somebody that those little girls, whether in the sport, any sport, just people in general looking into, like, women in the Army and things like that, is being able to shed light on what you're capable of being in your life if you put your mind to it, I guess. So, yeah, not really any specific people, but just the idea of being that role model and being somebody for people to look up to.
I guess I'm trying to think of a way to word the question, but it seems like there's both of you have talked about like how surprised you were at what your experience would be like in the Army. As a female, what would you say to other young ladies who are just completely opposed to the idea because they do think it is just, grabbing an M4 and kicking in a door?
Right.
I mean, we did learn how to do that.
I mean, it is fun, actually, surprisingly. But, which I guess I kind of thought I would have fun doing that kind of thing.
You didn't do a whole lot of Battle Drill 6?
So, I think a lot of it, women that are opposed to it before joining, or, young girls or things like that, I think they think they'll lose themselves and lose who they are. I mean, that was definitely one of the things that like I said, I'd never had any intention.
That's interesting.
Because I thought putting this uniform on every day would take away from the person I was outside of the uniform, right? And so it was kind of a fear of mine, or, the straight-laced hardness, like the grit, which I have, but I'm also a total softie. Like, any Disney movie you put on, I'm probably crying. So bad. And so I was like, I'm going to lose that part of myself. Suddenly I'm going to be a person that I am not truly who I am. And every day I won't be able to be who I am. And it's just going to be terrible. And so I think that would be the biggest thing, is you can still be who you are. Just because you're wearing the uniform doesn't take away from the person that you are and the people that you meet and create. You can be that person. Just because we're wearing this uniform today, doesn't mean we can't go hang out on the weekend and wear completely different clothes.
Yeah.
And still be ourselves.
I guess I never
that's a good way to word it.
Yeah,
that does seem like, whether you're a girl or a guy,
right, yeah,
that
anything.
seems like something you wouldn't want to let go of, is kind of, but I don't know. What do you think? What would you say to a young lady?
I think society tries to tell us we need to be a certain kind of way. And, I think people every day are trying to break that mold. I wouldn't consider myself to be a huge, I guess I am a feminist here and there, but I think, females don't have to just be one thing. You don't need to praise me for being a female. I want to do the same thing you can do. And I think, and they now have gender integrated training. So I went to training with a bunch of guys, and I remember there was this girl, we were carrying ammo cans in our first 100, and she was like, I need a big, strong man to carry this. And I just, looked at her what? Because we're all in this together. And I think, I don't know, I just think it's a great experience that a lot of people should do. I mean, you learn so much about yourself. And like she was kind of saying, I had a totally different view of the uniform. I remember going to CIIP and putting my OCPs on, and I was like, I look cool. Totally did not look cool. They don't fit, and I didn't have makeup on, and I was up for 72 hours. But I was like, man, this is kind of cool. But I'd always kind of liked the Army, but there's so many opportunities. I think the Army just is a gateway. They kind of refer to the Army as this big fraternity, and I got to meet another Olympian. You never heard that? Oh my gosh! Everybody I've literally ever talked to is like, oh man, you just joined the biggest fraternity.
That's so funny.
And yeah, so you get to meet cool people every day. I would, if I wasn't here, I would have never met you.
Yeah, facts. Yeah, yeah. There we go.
There's a lot of cool opportunities, and I think people are kind of just opposed to joining the Army because they just see some of the people who are miserable, and they're like, man, I just hated that. But as a female, there's so many opportunities.
That might be somebody who is going to hate anything.
True, but
there's I'm sure there's people that don't enjoy being in the Army. I'm saying if they don't enjoy that, they may have not enjoyed a number of things.
It's quite easy to not enjoy. You have to accept the mindset, and you have to say, all right, but like she said, we can go do something different on the weekend. There's plenty of opportunities for you to change. And I don't know, I just feel like I was more in tune with myself coming into the Army. I remember in AIT, we did this thing called the Swamp Challenge. Only Alpha Company does a Swamp Challenge. And we were doing this thing called the Chariot Push, and my Drill Sergeant Glover, he was my timekeeper, and I was pushing that thing. And he was like, this is where I embarrassed First Sergeant last year. I beat him in front of his family. And I remember just watching the blades of grass go by under. So it's a trap bar with 35 pounds on the side and a 90-pound sled behind it, and you're trying to push it. We had to push it, I think, 50 meters. And I was already smoked. We had already been doing a whole bunch of other exercises, and I just remember tapping into, I've never been able to do that before. I was never that physically exhausted, pushing yourself to this limit. And I didn't know that was an option until I joined the Army. I had always, you always talk about it and hear about it, but that moment where it's yeah, I want this. And I just remember telling myself, like, do you want to go to the Olympics or not? And I was just like, push this dang sled, go. You want to win. And I didn't know I had that opportunity. And I think seeing some of my battle buddies change, like even as females, like they didn't think they could do it. They're like, you know, the word I can't became fewer and fewer in their vocabulary. Mm-hmm. And I think it's just, I don't know. I would tell everybody to join the Army.
Well, and it's kind of like what you're saying too, what you said, that, you know, some people that are unhappy here might be unhappy everywhere because they don't have that mindset of, you know, what we like to say in the Army is like hunting the good stuff of every day or throughout every experience.
Yeah. Be the tennis ball, not the egg.
Yeah. And so it's like, I would imagine even in a lot of things at Radiator Ranch, like that are grueling and terrible, or, you know, like I can't catch this cow out there, I would imagine is something, you know, potentially going through some of the interns' head when they first get there and haven't really had a lot of experience doing something like that. But rather than always being drained and not wanting to do it and hating it because you're struggling through it or anything like that, it's shifting that mindset and seeing it differently and believing in it.
No, you're right. I think even in rodeo, you know, there's always like the highlights that anybody would enjoy, you know, after you've made a good ride behind the chutes with your buddies. But what it takes to get there, you know, I think is the mentality you're going to have, you know, a good attitude to make it, and especially to make it and be the best when you get there. So that definitely takes a different, but I guess I was talking to somebody yesterday and they were saying how there's a stigma that the Army is kind of the last resort, you know, and I guess what we saw yesterday, I don't think anybody in AMU saw the Army as a last resort whenever they joined, and they definitely don't now that they're, you know, been to the Olympics and maybe even a gold medalist. Mm-hmm. But
very true.
I guess there's you just got to ask the right questions once you get in.
Absolutely. I mean, there were some people that totally joined in basic, and it was like, I don't really have another choice but to see them grow as a person and be like, man, all these opportunities are here. Like, I want to take full advantage of it. Like, I remember on Fire Guard talking to Williams, my friend, and she was like, yeah, I don't have all the same things that everybody else has, but like, this is a cool opportunity. And I'm super proud of her. And I don't know, that just asking the right questions, like you just said, like,
and even before you get in, asking the right questions, like
absolutely.
Not being afraid of going to, you know, recruiters kind of get this like bad rap. Like, I don't know.
I went in my recruiting office like a bull in a china shop, and they're like, who is this girl? Yeah. And I was like, this is what I want, and that's what I'm going to get. Like,
yeah.
But
a lot of times it's them setting up tables that, you know, inside the mall or at places, you know, all over the country. And I think, especially now that I'm in and I've sat behind some of those tables with people, even as an Olympian, and they're like, this is an Olympian over here. People are still kind of like, skirt, like, we're good. And it's just because they're afraid of asking the questions because they do have that kind of stigma in their mind. And so I think that's a big part of our job here as well, is sharing our stories and the things that we've gotten out of it, and that there is available, and it's not just what everyone thinks it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure.
Man. So what was what was the hardest part about basic training?
Being cold.
Girls? Being cold?
Oh my
It's just being cold.
Gosh, being cold.
Yeah.
Like,
Pretty
and
surface
I
level.
get so insulted because I'll talk to like civilians, right? And they're like, oh, you're from Georgia, you don't know what cold is like. And I'm like, you better dang believe I know what being cold is like. Because standing outside on a drill pad in the shade and the wind's blowing and you're in summer PTs and you can't move, it's cold. I don't care what the temperature is. And yeah, being cold was the worst part. Oh, or being hungry. All my battle buddies were like, oh, there's no hungry. Simonton's always hungry. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I remember like trying to get in a knockdown drag out with a girl because there was not enough food and she had snuck some in her pockets.
Uh-oh.
Contraband, no.
Right.
Yeah, I think for me, it was less of the, I mean, obviously the physical stuff was incredibly hard. You know, like I'm doing push-ups until I'm falling on my face, or like I'm holding a plank until I'm collapsing. So very much difficult, but I think it was the working with other people. And not because like I can't, but I went in basically post 2 degrees. So I went in when I was, 25. I'm not good at math. And I forget my age a lot.
21 for the 4th time.
Yeah, there we go. And so I was much older than a lot of these girls coming in. There was a handful of there was maybe 5 to 7 of us that were over the age of 23, 22. So I was definitely on one of the older sides of it. And it was just trying to, like, I kind of get these like motherly instincts sometimes. So it's like wanting to help them understand that they can get through it. Like that's the whole point of training. It's not, the point of it is to get through it, and they want to see people get through it. It's not to kick you out and break you down. And
they want you to think you're going to fail, but it's bad on them if you fail. Like,
right.
And so it's like, it's wanting to help them do that, but then not being able to, because that's only something somebody can do on their own. Right. And so, or, you know, like we talked about earlier, the people that don't really have that discipline or the ability to listen to orders or something else, like it would just get frustrating. So it's like, okay, they literally just told us to stand here. Yeah. We're going to be okay. We can stand here. Like, you don't need to wiggle around the whole time, because that's when we're getting in trouble.
Oh my gosh, the moving in formation made me crazy. Oh my gosh.
But so I would say, but that also taught me a whole lot. Like, it helped better me as a person, because now I've learned how to deal with all kinds of personalities and people's emotional reactions or things like that, and how to talk to somebody when we're back up in our bunks and everything in the bay, and trying to work through things and problems with them, or like the drama in the bay. It's all girls, because it's all it can be in there, and you get a lot of girls together, there tends to be some drama, unfortunately.
Oh
and
my
so
gosh.
It's trying to manage that. And
yeah,
so
that was
I learned.
I'd kind of forgotten about. Maybe I put it to the side. I didn't want to remember that part.
Yeah, but like learning so much from that and growing as a person is just huge. So I'm grateful for it. Although it was challenging, I'm grateful for it.
So we normally wrap up with life advice, but if you girls could give us 2 pieces of advice. One, life advice for anybody, civilian, military person, whatever. And then the second piece would be someone that's thinking about the Army, possibly going into the Army. What would you tell like a new recruit?
Do you want to go first? Do you have it? Do I have it? I might have one.
You go. I'm going to have to stew on this one for a minute.
Okay, so my life advice for anybody out there, I sometimes don't like giving it because it is probably the most cliche on every sign you ever see.
That's okay.
Is literally just to never give up and continue believing in yourself until you make the things happen in your life that you wanted to see happen. For me, that came a lot from my experience through life and like some hardships, is especially on the sport side of things and making the Olympic team, is there was a lot of times that I was, almost kind of given the short end of the stick and not really seen as a person that could make the Olympic team or be a medal contender or anything like that. Even though I was always in the top, I wasn't necessarily the top. And so I kind of just got brushed aside. And there was a lot of times I was like, is this even worth it? Mm-hmm. Like, is trying to follow and do everything I want even worth it? And I thought about giving up and all of that. And I didn't, because I refused to. So that whole never give up thing really rings true for me, because then it came around and worked out in my favor in making the 2020 Tokyo Olympic team. So, and now being on the World Championship team and continuing that goal. So I think for anyone, no matter what it is, school, sports, a job, finding a job, anything like that, just never give up on what you want.
You bet.
As far as for the Army and new recruits or people thinking about it, I think don't be afraid to learn more. Like, don't just believe the stereotype. Don't be afraid to learn more. Don't be afraid to talk to somebody about it.
That's what I was going to talk about. Dang, I'm going to keep thinking.
Thanks.
Talk a little longer.
Got it. And so whether it's showing up to a recruiting office, just asking other people you might know, even if it's like, okay, this person's not in the Army, but they know somebody else in the Army. It's like, hey, like, do you know anything about it? And just teaching and educating yourself on it and not being afraid of it just because of the stereotype you've created in your head.
Mm.
All right. So thanks, Hallie. I guess for my like new recruit advice, I remember seeing this, quote. It's called the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. So I remember going to basic training and I was so scared the first day. Like, you watch the movies, you like hype yourself up. It's this whole new world. It's this whole new experience. It's this cave that you like fear to enter. Like, I just signed my life away to the federal government. Oh my gosh. What did I do? And I remember like doing push-ups the first day and I couldn't. I had been training to do push-ups. I could rep them out, man. And I was so nervous that I was like, oh my God. But, I think the Army is this cave. It's this whole new opportunity, and it holds a treasure you seek. Like, I seek going to the Olympics. I seek being a doctor, and like the Army holds that treasure for me. Like, it's there. All I have to do is take it, and they've given me every opportunity I could possibly imagine, and I hope I continue getting those opportunities, and I hope I can take full advantage of them in the future, because that is my goal. That's why I'm here, and I want to be a high achiever on all spectrums. For my life advice, when I got to Alpha Company, 232 Med Battalion at Fort Sam Houston, I struggled a lot. I was from Charlie Company. All the people I went to basic training with were still there, and I went to Alpha Company, and it was all these new people. And my mom sent me this quote, and it's, if your path requires you to walk through hell, act like you own the place. Or walk like you own the place. And I was just like, man, that's pretty profound. Like, life doesn't always hand you the best things. Like, not making the Olympic team, that sucked for me. That was March 8th, 2020 was the hardest day of my life. I remember I was so mean to my parents. I was so angry. I was so sad. I had to keep it together. And, it's like trying to be happy for your teammates. Like, Amber made the team, and she's my teammate. She's my competitor. She's my friend. But I mean, it crushed me. And, being in Alpha Company, being in that uncomfortable situation, like, you just got to accept it and move on. You got to own it. Like, own the things that hurt you and move forward. Like, you be like, yeah, I am who I am. I'm not the things that happen to me. I'm who I choose to be and what I make of it. And I think that's super important. And, life doesn't get any easier as we get older. And I think finding the little small pieces of motivation every day to keep you going. And I think that's super important for anybody.
My brother reminded me of a quote the other day. He's been doing leather work for 2022, maybe at least 15 years. And he just recently started silver work, and the margins are way better. He's an artist, but anyway, he can make more money. It's more fun. It'll last longer, than leather will. Anyhow, a quote that we listened to, there's this old rodeo documentary growing up that we used to watch called Moon of the Desperados, and Gary LeFew quotes Shakespeare, and he says, "Our doubts are traitors and make us lose the good we often might win by fearing to attempt."
Oh, heck yeah.
And
that's good.
we always considered that with rodeo. We grew up on the rough stock end of the arena, and so your intuition tells you to be afraid of a bull or a bucking horse. And so, but trying that for us was, it was liberating once we did, but we had to kind of put our fear aside. And so, and then coincidentally, once you learn to control your emotions in rodeo, much like I'm sure in the Army, that's whenever you can really grab a hold of the fundamentals and become great at your craft.
Absolutely.
So, but I imagine that's the case for people, like you said, that might be scared to even think about going into the Army. So if you are interested in hearing more about the Army, I've got some links in the bio in my description below. So check that out. Check out U.S. Army. Look for one of 150 different career paths you can choose. AMU is just one of many, and the Army Marksmanship Unit is just the best shooters in the Army, and got some Olympians, so that means some of the best shooters in the world. So we've been blessed to be here for a couple days and learn and get to shoot with the U.S. Army. And if you'd like to, then just visit these links below, and we are on to the next one. Thank you, ladies.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Johnny, you got to roll that. We got some outro music. It's pretty good.
Heck yeah.
Just
Oh,
wait.
yeah.
Do we dance? Like, what's the
You're going to want to.
Yeah.
Here it is.
Rodeo time.